Hello everybody, Merry Christmas and welcome back to the Vintage Workshop. My name's Jeff. It's pretty much the end of the year here, guys. It's actually Christmas Eve morning early, and I wanted to do a video like I said I would in the comment section about a shop tour. The last shop tour you guys saw about my shop was my introduction to YouTube by Keith Rucker, and that was over a year ago at the 2016 Arnfest, so it's definitely been updated here since then, so let's get right after it. I wanted to start out at my workbench. This is where you guys probably see me the most, and also where most of the work gets done in my shop. I do a lot of hand tool work, so what I've done is I've turned the bench around in order for you guys to get a good look at the pretty much the working side, and I've also taken all my planes, domino effect here, I've taken all my planes and putting them up on top of the workbench here so you guys can see what I'm working with. I've got all my wooden planes that I've made myself, all except for this one, and this one. And then I've got all my metal planes, which is a combination of Stanley planes. I've got one Veritas plane, and I've got some Lee Nielsen planes here mixed in as well. And I use all of these throughout my daily work, and you guys have seen most of these in action on the videos. So this is my workbench. It's 8 feet long, it's 2 foot wide, and I built this in the Rabot style, and I went ahead and I hope you can see me over here. Yeah, I went ahead and used bench crafted hardware from Jamil. Jamil is a OWWM member, and boy, I tell you what, I couldn't be happier. If you guys are ever thinking about building a bench and getting hardware, this is my fourth style of workbench, and it has morphed over time. Every time I've built one, I've pretty quickly come to learn what I didn't like about it, and eventually ended up building a new one. The last bench I had, I used for probably 15 years. There were some things that bugged me about it, and I got into this style of bench, which is, you know, the nice thick top. This is all maple, laminated maple. I built it myself. 5 inches thick, built on a solid base. It's got cherry legs that are 3.5 inches by 5 inches, and you know, I've got the leg vise here. This is the first time I've ever had a bench like that had a leg vise on it. Guys, I love it. Great holding power. I line the inside of the jaw, which you can't see, with a piece of leather, and that just really gives it great clamping power. You can do chin-ups on a piece of wood in that vise, and it's not going anywhere. The other nice feature is the wagon vise, which has the sliding dead man inside here that goes back and forth. And then, of course, the front row here is all drilled with 3/4 inch holes for, I use round bench dogs, and you can fit a whole bunch of different types of jigs and whatnot for holding capability. So it's a workhorse. It's very heavy. I never weighed it, but I'm guessing somewhere in the 600 to 700 pound range. Can't pick it up. I can barely slide it across the floor. I use the pallet jack to move it around. So that's the workbench, and let's move you around the shop and show you, as you guys who know, who've just recently watched my debacle video, which I wanted to show about moving the big lathe. Thankfully, everybody's fine, and also the lathe is fine too. It actually has no problems at all. I actually got a mark in my floor, the only mark in it, a little gouge in the concrete from the weightiness of the big lathe. So at any rate, let me go ahead and move you around the workshop very quickly and show you where we've repositioned quite a few of the machines. It's way more user-friendly right now than it was just a few weeks ago, so the move was very necessary for me. You're going to see a lot of sawdust on the floor, guys, and a lot of shavings. This is a working environment, and I have been ridiculously busy finishing up a Christmas present for my daughter, which I'll show you very briefly. There's going to be a separate video on that. But if you see a brown haze on machines, that's not rust, that's mahogany dust, because I have been, for 100 hours in the last 10 days, I have been up here banging away, finishing up a Christmas present for her, which is almost done. I've actually got a little bit. I got to drill a knob and I got to apply the finish. So at any rate, let's move you around the shop and show you what we got going on. Next up is my table saw. This is a 10-inch Powermatic 66 from 1985. It's originally a gold, like the beginning of the gold era, gold version. I completely restored it. This was in a shop cutting aluminum, so the inside of the cabinet was completely coated with like a melted shards of aluminum. I had to scrape it all clean, got most of it off. I ended up taking it to a sandblaster who completely sandblasted the inside and outside of the cabinet. The previous owner was pretty rough on this. It had been completely dented up, so I did some body work on it, straightening out the metal, and replaced all the bearings, new belts, new thrust bearings on the lift mechanisms, and also new bearings in the motor, basically making it a brand new saw. It's got a 5 horsepower, 3-phase motor, and really there's nothing that I can feed into it that it can't handle. The total rip capacity on these 10-inch saws is a little bit limiting at about 3 1/4 inches. So when I get into some thicker stuff, unfortunately, this saw is a little bit limiting, which is why I ended up buying a bigger saw. But I haven't restored it yet, so for now, this is what I'm using. I put a brand new Biesemeyer fence on it. It's the 52-inch cabinet maker's version, and it's the longer version. I like having it hanging off the back. So at any rate, that's the saw, and there you can see on the right side there my Incra miter jig. I would love to have a sliding table. In fact, I used to have a Greenlee 495 slider that I sold to a buddy of mine. He begged and begged and begged, Carl, until I eventually ended up selling it to him. But the Incra jig is outstanding. It's very accurate for miter cuts for different angles and whatnot. I've been very happy with it. So let's go ahead and move you on. Oh, and yeah, right over here, you can see, obviously, there's the heat source for the shop. I burn all the wood, and then I've got a really nice, I don't use it a lot, but when I do need it, it's really nice to have. That is the Jessam miter station with the, it's got the miter angle, I don't even know what the heck they call it anymore, but the miter slide. This is a really nice setup. It's got dust collection above and below. I've got a 3 1/4 horsepower Speedmatic router on there, the Powermatic version. And when I do need to make small moldings, just fantastic. I'm going to give you a quick span of the shop from one corner over to the other. Before, you guys probably remember that this was where the big metalworking lathe and the mill were, and now I freed this all back into woodworking space. You guys remember the cabinet, which is covering the electrical system right there, and I've got wood storage. And then as we span around the shop, you know, getting into some toolboxes, file cabinet with plans, and I keep bearings and such like that in there. Behind the Festool rack is a wall cabinet, which will soon be going up on the wall that I built, just for hanging some tools in. Over here, which I didn't talk about when I had you guys pointed at my workbench before, that space right back there is roughly about 10 feet, and I am going to be building a full-on tool storage cabinet for all my hand tools. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. You see them in a lot of different shops. I plan on going all out here with a very nice and decorative, beautifully finished, complete cabinet to store all my hand tools, not just the planes, but I've got that silver cabinet in the corner there. It's filled with my chisels, my carving chisels, spoke shaves. I got saws hanging on the wall, just hand tools everywhere, and I want to get them all in one place so that it's more organized. And then as we span back over this way, over the top of the table saw, you'll see the American Rotary. That's the 10 horsepower phase converter. I also have a 20 horsepower for the bigger machines and the metalworking equipment. If you guys watched the video on building the belt grinder station, there it is over there right in front of the window. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but we're finally getting some luck here. It's Christmas Eve and we are getting snow. We're supposed to get up to 3 inches today, so if you guys are out there driving, be careful. And then as you span around, I'm going to zoom you back out. That's the mortiser. That's an Oliver 91D, a 1927 model. I bought it from a school system up in Appleton, Wisconsin. They were the original owners of it. I bought it from them and actually have the original bill of sale for it from Oliver. And then I'm going to go ahead and move the camera a little bit closer so you can see what's going on over in the back corner there. Over back here in the corner is the Oliver 159A pattern maker's lathe. This was Morning Coffee 2, if I remember correctly. and I have not yet started the restoration on it, but it is a fully functional working machine. It's right now designated as a spindle turning machine because its startup speed is 1,000 RPMs, but I actually already have bought it. I just haven't gotten a chance to re-hooking up the electrics on it. I am going to completely take this apart, and the motor is going to get new bearings. They're a little noisy. They're fine, but I'm going to change them out anyway. And when I do that, I'm going to revamp the electrical system to a VFD operating the 3-phase motor, and that will give me complete speed control so that I can do bowl turnings. This is a 12-inch, so it swings 12 inches. And what you're seeing on there is the Pattern Maker's cross slide, and what I have also just recently acquired at Arnfest this past year from a gift from a very, very, very wonderful OWWM member. He went ahead and gave me a old freestanding banjo that also fits it's the correct one for the lathe. So having the correct Oliver banjo for the 159 is really a great little addition. I need to make a couple of parts for it on the metalworking lathe. It's missing the cam and a few other things, but I should be able to knock that out. Okay, so there you see the big behemoth and the pride and joy of my shop. That's the 1936 Yates American Y30 Snowflake bandsaw. You guys saw that one in Morning Coffee 3, and I have begun to disassemble it, and then got sidetracked here with the woodworking project for my daughter, but next week we're going to get right back on this, and I am videoing everything, so you guys will see that once I have some more footage. Something more interesting than scraping rust off of a table. And right in front of it, you've got the little 6x48 Delta bandsaw. That is a belt sander, not a bandsaw. And obviously, you guys know what that is used for. And then spanning over, let me see if I can get it. No, I'm going to move. Hang on, let's do it like this. We don't have to be so. So there's the two bandsaw shot together. In the front, looking quite nice because it's about 12 feet in front of the other one, size-wise, is the Walker Turner. That's the 16-inch wood metal bandsaw. That is the 16-inch Walker Turner bandsaw that we didn't do a restoration on it. We did a mechanical restoration on it late last year. I went ahead and it's got new tires, all ground, new rubber from Bobby up at Woodworkers Toolworks. He supplied me with the tires, and then they're epoxied on, and then we crowned them. I showed that in the video. Right now, that is the only current working, functioning bandsaw for woodworking in the shop. Back there, you see my sharpening station. Let me see if I can zoom in there for you. It's got the big Arbor Press on it. I got the Tormek up there. I've got a bunch of parts for planes, for plane making. Down below is a shelf for storage. And then we've got the big Arbor Press there. Here's a better view of the Dake 2.5P, which is my Arbor Press. It's got the ratcheting handle on one side and the turning wheel on the other. It's got a 20-inch throw underneath the ram, and it's a broaching Arbor Press, so you can use broaches for broaching out keyways and whatnot. So very handy to have. I've got that. That is a 6-ton unit and capable of most of the work I have in here. I also have a 30-ton hydraulic press for getting some of the bigger shaft bearings off. Occasionally I was restoring a 24-inch joiner once, and I couldn't for the life of me get the bearings off no matter what I did, so I ended up buying the hydraulic press. Very good purchase. Right next to it you see the Craftsman 1967 drill press there. It's a floor standing model. That is probably, yeah, I think so, the oldest machine in the shop as far as how long I've owned it. I've had that a really long time, and it's been really just a workhorse. It's a small little, it's got a 1/3 horsepower motor on it, so it's not for heavy duty metal drilling or anything like that. You can drill some small holes with it, but I pretty much use it exclusively and mostly for woodworking, and I also occasionally do some tapping with it. And then moving you over here, I've got the State oscillating spindle sander. Boy, when you need one of these, there's nothing better for the job. You're doing a lot of large curved work, and it's fantastic. The sanding, the sleeve is 9 inches. It goes up and down on a rubber drum. I've got all the different spindle sizes down below wrapped around it. And I've got sanding drums from a ½ inch all the way up to 4 inches. So very, very handy. One of the recent additions that I put up on the wall there is just that little shelving unit, quick and dirty for hanging stuff, getting screws out of the way. And I've got my my screw guns over there, and you know, just a bunch of stuff. So I've never really talked to you guys about sharpening, and perhaps that would be a good upcoming video if you guys want to see it. Just mention it down in the comment section. But this is my sharpening station. Very quick, simple, and dirty. It's a granite plate. It's actually the center cutout from the kitchen island for the sink in our house. And I use 3M paper. Guys, you could spend literally thousands of dollars on sharpening systems. But the bottom line is, get your tools sharp, get back to work. And I'll discuss this in another video. But this is how I sharpen all my chisels. And unless I have some specialty steel, this does an outstanding job of getting me quickly back to work. And I've got all the different grits laid out there. And I also use the middle path occasionally. If I've got an old hand plane that needs flattening, I'll glue some self-sticky sandpaper down there, and really good for quickly flattening the bottom of a plane. And then up behind, you guys have seen this before, but this is where I store all the wood. Let me see if I can back up out of here, get you a better view. Got all the wood pretty much full size off of the sawmill. You see the stuff on the second row down, that is all ash. It's all dried, ready to go. And I keep that stickered because that was most recently put in the shop. The stuff down below has been in here. It's remnants of jobs from 10, 15 years ago. There's cherry in there, there's walnut in there, white oak, there's a little bit of red oak. I don't work with red oak very often. I've got a bunch of poplar in there, I got maple. I've got some other kind of crazy woods, like I did a job, knotty alder cabinet job, some remnant pieces of that, so that stuff is all stacked in there. One of the big parts of the recent shop move was to get the joiner and planer in a better, more easily accessible situation inside the shop, as well as getting the metalworking stuff out of the corner. And this ended up working perfectly. When I was using the joiner before, I was frequently having to dodge the the table saw on long boards, as well as the wood burning stove. And now I've got it over right up next to the wood storage, and it's working out so far very well for me. 1957 Powermatic 20-inch 221D. You guys know that I do have the 30-inch Baxter Whitney planer. I had to move that out of the shop for space. It is sitting outside completely under tarp, undercover, and it is eventually going to get brought in here and restored. It's just not something that I have time to do right now, because I'm going to be working on the bandsaw first. Then I'm going to be working on the Oliver lathe, because those are two machines that I use much more frequently. I have a whole bunch of wood slabs, large slabs, that I'm going to need that Baxter Whitney 30-inch planer for, but they're not dry yet, so it gives me, buys me a lot of time. Presently, all the lumber that I have that I would need to plane up is fully capable of being handled by the 20-inch. Here's another prideful machine for me. This is my 1940s Yates American #1 16-inch joiner. This was a complete restoration from a train wreck. In fact, I'm going to include a picture of the before of it, so that you guys have a chance to see what I was starting with. And when I acquired this, I drove to Philadelphia to pick it up, which the round trip was a little bit over 1,600 miles, and it's turned into a great machine. I had the tables reground on it. This was a nut and bolt restoration. I completely disassembled it, took it apart, rebuilt the motor, new bearings in the cutter head, the whole 9 yards. I returned the cutter head because it had just a lot of bad rust and whatnot on it, and it got a new set of knives for it from Bobby up at Woodworkers Toolworks. So outstanding machine, and it's pretty much my daily user. So I probably shouldn't show you this part of the shop, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm a glutton for punishment. This is the side of the shop where everything was moved over to. Right now it's a train wreck because I haven't finished organizing it. After I get finished with my daughter's Christmas present, I'll have some more time here to clean stuff up, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you anyway. Stuff is stacked on top of each other, but that blue container back there, that is my parts washer for cleaning off just oil-soaked gunk and whatever. Most of these machines, when you take them apart, they've got, you know, 50, 75, 100 years worth of crud attached to them, and they go inside there and they come out pretty clean. I've got a big storage unit back there, which is where I keep all my cleaning supplies and sandpaper and polishing stuff and oil and parts, and I've got the grinder for the joiner, the grinder for the planer in there, and spare motors and spare starters, just a bunch of stuff. Obviously that's firewood for the stove. It needs to be filled back up. I end up filling that thing up all the way up above the top of the bandsaw blade, or the table saw blade that you're sitting there. You guys have seen the drill press in a recent video. That is the Gifford Leyland drill press, which is a project, 440 volts. Right in front of it is the Delta, 17-inch, another project. I've got a, it's got a 1/2 horsepower motor on it now. I'm upgrading that to a 3/4 horsepower, and I'm going to do a full restoration on that. Obviously, you'll see it here on the channel. There's the big welder, and behind the welder is my plywood stack. Let me see if I can get you a better shot of that. So from another angle, moving around the shop, you see my flammable container there, thanks to Mike Prosen, who actually gifted me that. He had an extra one that he picked up at a demolition job and gave that to me. I store all the paints and solvents and stuff in there. In the middle is the plywood rack. That outer sheet is just a piece of construction grade. I use it to protect the plywood behind it, and also when I'm cutting sheets, I use my Festool track saw, and that is what I lay down and put a piece of polystyrene insulation on top, and that's my working table for cutting up plywood. And then over here, another window, and you can see this is pretty much the cutoffs rack. This is all different lengths of wood from various projects where I stack up all the leftovers. Behind this big stack, which is stacked and stickered, this is a big rack of 12-quarter ash, which has been moved up here because I'm going to be building another workbench. There's the 12-quarter ash, all stacked and stickered, getting ready to be turned into another big 8-foot workbench. And then behind it, which you probably can't see too well, is just a stack of lumber. All my shorts that fit under the window. And then the big stuff, the tall stuff, including some live edge cherry, and I've got maple and walnut and ash and some padauk in there and some other exotic stuff stacked over there. That's my hardware bin, and then here is the big overhead door, and you can see right now everything is just stacked in front of it. But there's the smoker project down on the right. Sitting on a mobile base is the Sterling drill grinder. That is staying up here. The 27-inch bandsaw is getting ready to be moved down to the other building for storage. That's why that's there. That big motor, that's the 15 horsepower monster motor for the big 30-inch Whitney planer. You can see my cute little the power hacksaw sitting down in front, and then the small Thunderbolt welder that is presently for sale on Craigslist right now. If anybody needs a great deal on a welder, I've got it over in front of the door, so I have quick, easy access to it with the forklift from the outside. So heading back over towards the workbench from the far end of the shop, I've got this cart that has all my 50 and 40 taper tooling for the Kearney and Trecker mill. And then as right behind it, you can see that's the 30-ton Arbor Press. And then another just outstanding machine. It's one of my favorite machines in the shop. This is the 1946 Kearney and Trecker Model 2K. This is the heavier duty version. The Model H's are great mills, but the 2Ks and 3Ks, they are just wicked heavy duty. There's not much you can't do. I mean, you can mill through an inch of steel with this thing with a big cutter. I mean, it's really an amazing machine. Right now, I've got it set up. You can see it's got the high-speed vertical head, which I've spoken about it before, but that is a special attachment that did not come with the machine that I had to, I got it completely stuck. I purchased it that way. It was sitting in a barn. The guy said it was on a crate for 35, 40 years. I took it apart, rebuilt it. Very expensive bearings inside, but it's an amazing head. It actually increases the speed of the mill from 1500 RPMs up to 2850 RPMs, and just does an amazing job. And you can use it as a vertical mill, or you can remove that and use this all as a horizontal mill, like you've seen many times on Keith Rucker's channel. Got a couple of vices up there. I was doing a job that required 2 of them. And what's really nice about the Model K is, I'm going to move you over here. Sorry about the bouncing, guys, but it's the only way to move the camera. Is it has, you can see down there, it's got side controls. So normal mills have the controls on the front, but a lot of times, especially with a horizontal mill, you're working on the side and behind a part, you need to be able to see what's going on there. This has complete operational side controls for X, Y, and Z, and power feed, so you can do everything you need to do as well as change speeds. Great mill. I also wanted to show you my box of tooling. That box, that crate down there probably weighs about 1,500 pounds. It's completely full of horizontal mill cutters. I've got 7 different arbors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, all 7 are there. That's good. That means there's none laying around somewhere else. And you can see the 2 overarm supports as well. So that's where I keep all my
I thought I'd get my Christmas hat back in the shop for the big lathe. This is a 1957 Series 61 Monarch. It swings, it's rated at swinging 16 inches by 54 inches center to center. The actual swing is 18.5 inches over the waist, and what a beast. Threading from 2 TPI all the way up to 120. I don't know anything this thing can't do when it comes to turning metal. It's a tool room lathe. It has, I put a big CA tool, Aloris tool post on it, and right now it's got a 3-jaw chuck on it. I also have a 4-jaw chuck on it for it. I also have a Jacobs soft jaw chuck for holding small parts, and those are the rubber flex chuck with the rubber flex collets, and just a fantastic lathe. It does need a good cleanup. It runs unbelievably well. I've got this thing sitting up on 4x4s, which is like a total no-no for metalworking, for tolerances, but this thing is still, even sitting up on 4x4s, it's amazing how well the parts are just really deadly accurate. So I mean, it's a tribute to the rigidity of and the amount of cast iron they put into making this. But I'm going to give this another good complete cleanup. I eventually want to go ahead and take it apart and paint it. And I don't think I need to do anything with the ways because the parts I'm making are all accurate. So I am going to get this on leveling feet and leveled it up. It has 4 leveling points underneath the front casting, underneath the tailstock, and 4 more that are built into the machine. Heavy duty, 1.5-inch bolts that go down through. And I'm going to make some steel plates for them and get this thing up and cleaned up and set up. It also has a DRO, which if you guys watched the crash video, you saw this come flying off the machine. Luckily, it got wedged in between the box, the electric box in the back. Here's the mount for it, and I got real lucky. No damage done. I just got to get it hooked back up. That was a really hard hit. It probably didn't look like it on video, but man, the whole floor shook. It was. I'm surprised nothing broke. So we really came through that completely unscathed. But that's the lathe. So if you guys watched the smoker build video that I started, you noticed this machine in action. This is my metal Doall model V36, horse of a horse, metal cutting bandsaw. This is for cutting any kind of metal you want. Too slow a speed for cutting wood. I think the top speed on this is about 1,400 RPMs, but that's not why I bought it anyway. I use this strictly for cutting metal. It does a fantastic job doing that. It's a 3-wheel design, and you can see down on the left side it's got a blade welder. It's got a tachometer, although on this particular one it's busted. I'm going to have to, I think maybe Mark Ratkowski over at MR Tool Repair might be able to help me out with that, and if not, he can probably set me up with somebody who knows how to rebuild that thing. But something to work on. Right now it's functioning, and it cuts metal very well. Spanning over to the right, on the back side of the lathe, and this is where I picked up a lot of space, because before that lathe was all the way in the far corner in the shot that you guys are looking at, and I couldn't get anything behind it, so it was basically dead space back there, and I had to be able to allow myself access back there, so the lathe was held out from the wall about 3 feet, because the electrical components and everything for the lathe are on the back side of it. Now I'm able, on the other side of that greenish colored oil-soaked screen, chip screen that you guys are looking at, I can stack the big bandsaw and my 2 grinders and have all the chips fly in both directions at each other, and I just was able to pick up all that space. That's a Hammond 10-inch grinder, and right next to it is a Cincinnati 10-inch grinder, and I use that as a wire wheel.
and then spanning over there, normally sitting in front of the Doall, but right now, presently, right over in front of the wood stove, just temporarily, is my granite surface plate. That's a 24 by 36. I just had Mark Radkowski from MR Tool Repair. He came over and did the deal on it. He straightened it. He basically flattened the top, did the diamond dust treatment, and got it all flat. And it would have been A grade, but it's not thick enough. It's I think it's a 1/2 inch shy of being the correct thickness for being an A grade plate, but I still have the same tolerances. He gave me a certification for it, and it's definitely flat enough for the scraping that I'm doing. So it's a great reference. I also use it for checking square and checking flatness on my planes and stuff like that, and setting up irons for sharpening and all of that. So I use that all the time. Right now I've got a nice protective wood cover over the top of it just so crap doesn't get on there and scratch the top. All right, last but not least is the last nook and cranny of the shop, and this is my metalworking bench. What it is a wood bench that I stuck an 1/8 inch piece of plate steel on. I've got my Wilton vise that I restored sitting on top of it. Guys, I paid 45 bucks for that sucker. I drove up to Wisconsin. A guy had an ad in the Craigslist about 5 years ago that said metal vise, and that was it. And I opened it up, and lo and behold, it's got a 4.5 inch Wilton vise for $45. It had a bent shaft, so it wouldn't open and close. I was able to heat straighten it and apply some pressure on it with a Arbor Press. Got it straightened out, and it works perfect. And the metal plating, the metal top allows me to do some light welding over there, although as I'm starting to do the heavier stuff, I don't want to catch that bench on fire. So I just recently found a couple of welding tables. They're the bases, they're not tables themselves, but I'll have to show it to you in another video. I was going to show it to you today, but it is absolutely snowing like you wouldn't believe outside right now, and I don't think I would be wise of putting the camera outside, and don't even know if I could get a good shot for you. But I've got 2 welding table bases. One I'm going to use as a base for logs by the sawmill. The other one I'm going to cut down and make a full-blown welding table out of with a metal shelf in the middle so that I can get a lot of this errant stuff like my all the metalworking tooling, and I want to get my super saver, and I've got a 15-inch Troik rotary table for the mill and all the vices and everything. I want to get all that stuff in one spot, and it's going to slide underneath on the second shelf underneath the table that you're looking at right now, except it'll be the new table. Behind it is the shop air compressor. That's a newer Ingersoll Rand. I bought that 20 years ago. Newer to me, it's still 20 years old, but it works great. I take care of it. I change the oil twice a year and all that good stuff. And of course behind it is the sandblast cabinet, which you can barely see. That was a restoration project in and of itself, but nobody's interested in hearing about that. And then on the far side, it also came with a dust collection system. Paid 100 bucks for it, had to rebuild it with all new guts. I got them from Trinco, which is an American-made company that makes sandblasting equipment, and rebuilt it. Now it works perfect. And then right in front is my, you guys, if you're into vintage stuff, this is just so cool. I just got to show this to you. This is my drill index. It's from Union Twist Drill Company. I have no idea how old it is, but this is the inch and number size up to a 1/2 inch, and number sizes all the way up to 60, from 1 to 60. All drill bits in 64ths of an inch. And I bought it at auction. Oh, by the way, it's completely full of drill bits. So for me, pretty much a lifetime supply. I do very minimal amount of metalworking, so I don't think I'm ever going to run out of drill bits up to a 1/2 inch. So at any rate, just wanted to share that with you. So because of the snow, that's going to conclude the 2017 shop tour. When I get a chance, I'll do another small video and show you guys what I call the rat hole. I've got 11 or 12 machines down in the other building that are stored, that are going to be future upcoming projects that you guys are going to be able to watch get restored, as well as that's where I keep all my lumber off the sawmill. So for now, I just wanted to say that it's been a fun year for me. We had a little area there in the middle where work just got too crazy and hectic, where I wasn't able to produce any videos, but I'm having a lot of fun with this. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. I really do appreciate the comments, because it helps me curtail the content of the channel to what you guys want to see, because that's really important to me. Is I don't want to just be putting out a bunch of boring videos that nobody wants to watch. So if you're still with me, I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed getting to meet some of you guys and getting to know you through the comments and emails, and of course the guys that are my OWWM brethren. Love all you guys and hope you all have a very happy and merry and healthy Christmas and safe and happy New Year. And more videos are going to be coming. Just a quick note, wanted to let you guys know that I've got a issue with my thumb. I'm going in for surgery on the 28th. They've got to remove part of this because I've got something growing inside there. They think it's a big cyst, but it's gotten to the point where it's affecting my work. Can't really hold chisels too well, so I'm going to get that fixed. So it's going to probably put me out of commission for a week or two with regards to woodworking, but I am still going to be able to use the left hand and start taking apart and restoring that big bandsaw. Like I said, guys, it's been fun. Got a lot more coming in 2018. A lot of machines to restore, a lot of projects to build. So I hope you guys come along for the ride. Thank you guys for subscribing, and if you haven't yet, please hit that like button on the video. Those help tremendously with the feed roll with YouTube, getting the channel more recognition. And I want to wish you all a happy, Merry Christmas, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next video.